Hey, I'm Marlon West from Walt Disney Animation Studios. Today we want to talk about the lasting impact of the Cinderella dress transformation. This is Notes on a Scene.
Something simple, but daring too. Oh, just leave it to me. What a gown this will be. Bibbidi-bobbidi, bibbidi-bobbidi, bibbidi-bobbidi.
This was one of Walt's favorite moments. And as an effects artist, it's one of the touchstones of what we call character effects. It is actually a moment where effects and character animation are interlinked. This unique collaboration between character animation and effects that feels to the viewer like one beautiful thing. It's something we go back to over and over. So the character animation was done by the great Mark Davis, and the effects animation was done by George Rowley. This whole effect here that we dig so much, this pixie dust, it goes next level. So one of the reasons we call it pixie dust in the business is because George Rowley also did it in Peter Pan as well for Tinkerbell, and it really kind of became associated with her magic and other fairies and pixies. Even to this day, actually, that effect goes over the castle logo on our current films. So getting into this scene, this is actually a really great frame where Cinderella is between transformation. This dust and all of the design, all this sense of motion you get here, and you can kind of see in these little areas, and I can draw it over here. The thing about this effect that is so cool and why it's emulated all the time is how it starts to fall. Not as fast as rain or anything, or water. You'll also see in here, and this is a good frame for it, you've got some of these little stars that are at their apex, and then some of them that are actually starting to pop. If we were animating this, they'll all probably start like this, become that, and do that. And that is just something that gets done like all the time. These are the original Pintle test footage that Mark Davis and George Rowley did together. It's very evident here in these pencil tests just how unified the character performance and the effects are. You can see this line here. So obviously the character animator went first, and the effects are actually laid over top of it. But you can see how these lines really support the action, the hemline of the gown, move along with her. And so even after the transformation is done, there's all this magic kind of interspersed within the dress, kind of keeping that sense of magic, that sense of transformation, even after it's already done. The brand newness. There's a real intersection between effects animation and the design. And I love also how it's not just a dissolve. There's a color shift here. The dress actually transforms. And so much of this movie is about clothing, making clothes, getting gowns to go to this ball. And this beautiful transformation is like the apex of it. And watch this strap go from like hanging to this actually billowing thing right here. That is really kind of cool. I'm just noticing that for the first time. Mark Davis is actually animating all the overlap of this little piece of her dress that moves and all the transformation from one dress to another. Her hairstyle, all of that is the character animation, even though it's feeling like an effect happening to her. And the effects artist is making all of this beautiful magic pixie dust. They work really together in tandem to actually make this one beautiful effect on a character, this transformation, which is why it's so iconic. It's had a lasting impact on the whole industry, but certainly here in this building on the films we do today. This is a scene from Princess and the Frog, a film that I was the head of effects on. It was a kind of a return to 2D animation. It came out 10 years ago this year. Instead of actually turning into a princess like Cinderella does, we've got Tiana, who's dressed as a princess, who gets turned into a frog. Let's break down that transformation and the effects we actually do to turn her into a frog that they're kind of inspired by, but trying to do a little twist on what was done in that dress transformation. She goes in, bam! So this is actually a good frame. You know, you have all these tasty light beams going out to hide what happens to her. So one of the things to kind of help support that this is actually a Princess and the Frog, that this is actually takes place in New Orleans. Instead of the traditional pixie dust that we've done, we've got these kind of water droplets. So everything, instead of actually these points of light that I had described earlier, or these little water splashes, the character animation was done by the great Mark Henn, who's done a bunch of Disney princesses. Dan Lund did the effects here. And you can see down here in the corner, there's like a soap bubble, but you can't do these magical Disney effects without some little sparkles. Here's some sparkles over here. But you can see more of these big water droplets as this transformation goes on. And one of the things they weren't doing in Cinderella is these I was going to say underlit effects, but these are digital effects. But back in the day, they were actually on an animation camera with a light shooting through them. But all those Pixie Dust drawings were actually just paint. But these were actually irradiating light, all these water droplets, but as well as these sparkles. They kind of behave the way the other Pixie Dust does, kind of float down, not quite like water would. And we carry it over through this shot, and we get rid of it here, because now we're in Tiana's point of view. There ain't no magic anymore, because sister's going to be disappointed. See? Going a little bit further in time is Wreck-It Ralph.
Whoa! What's with all the magic sparkles?
So this is a clip where Vanellope is revealed that she, in fact, is a princess, even though she's been like an around-the-way girl this whole time. So this shot in particular, I want to just stop on, because it's a wonderful mashup of the Pixie Dust we've been talking about, and this is actually an overt callback to Cinderella, because it actually is a parody. So, we were trying to do something else in Princess and the Frog, but this is really trying to take you back to that moment and get a little laugh going at the same time. But another thing it's got happening is all this kind of electrical effects here. Bright, like this electronic stuff raining down as well, letting you know that you're still in a video game. Again, here we are with our friends, the little Pixie Dust. Gotta have that popping off. Bam, the whole world transforms. Now this is a combination of both the effects and look. So you've got two different environments actually being revealed here by an effects pass. There's all this kind of digital imagery here, and there's all this lighting. It's also a real collaboration between the look department, environments, effects, and lighting. We don't have this kind of like one department hands off to another. We're working like right alongside, which brings me to my next clip, which is from the original Frozen. The transformation of Elsa from Queen Elsa to Elsa is beautiful in this like Let It Go sequence. And I want to kind of break down how we make that sequence happen. The wonderful thing about Elsa is she's her own fairy godmother. So one thing I like about this is that before the magic transformation happens, she just defiantly takes her crown off, tosses it. No magic. And this is just straight, just lets her own hair down. Another cool thing about this character animation was done by Becky Brazy, who was the character supervisor for Elsa. Jay Yoon did the effects animation in here. And we go full Pixie. We actually take some of the similarities of Elsa's royal gown and reveal her classic Elsa costume underneath. So you can kind of see how we kind of like light up the crest on her chest. The effects are helping reveal her dress. And because she's doing it on her own, she throws her arm out, bam, dress comes on because she's in control. Just doing it for herself. So that's one thing that we were really trying to do here in this transformation, is because this is not something that's actually happening for Elsa. She's actually doing it herself, and then she walks off, makes this cape, almost afterthought, like, bam, take this cape. So one of the things that makes Elsa's magic very important, now we have these kind of pixie dust in here we've been talking about, but we also have snow and ice as well, kind of mixed into this traditional magic. So this was actually weeks of back and forth between Dan, who I mentioned earlier from Princess and the Frog, Jay, and Becky working together to kind of plot what she was going to do, when this effect was going to happen based on this pose and that pose. So let's step through this again. Watch how the effects kind of light up here along the patterns of Elsa's dress that are already there, that are actually part of the design of her costume that she's already wearing. That lights up and creates all of this magic. And of course, this is a musical, so it has to be done to the song that she's singing. The effects, again, going all the way back to Cinderella and Princess and the Frog, Wreck-It Ralph, and anything we've actually done, is that we have to be in support of her performance, of who she is as a person at this particular moment in time and the particular action that's going on. So here she is almost fully formed here, and then we just have these kind of accents of both the classic kind of pixie dust magic and the snow and ice that you kind of associate with Elsa throughout the film. And even before the gown actually forms, we start bringing these signature Elsa kind of snowflakes on, almost anticipating it. You get this almost preview of what's going to happen. And then here, start with a reflection. Bam, all fully formed. And this is all lighting, actually. I don't believe we actually did effects on this shot. They can actually just pull these sweet little highlights. So that's the lasting legacy of the dress transformation from Cinderella, going all the way up to some of the films we're doing today. Tiana, Vanellope, of Elsa, whether it's the character animator actually drawing the dress, changing from one dress to another, whether the effects artist is revealing the dress underneath, the collaboration that it takes to actually make a transformation like this between character animation and effects to actually make something that feels to the viewer like one thing, one big particular bit of magic. I think that's kind of cool.